Bretto, after 7 years of wellness summits, we are going virtual for the first time.
Oh, it's very exciting, MP. For all those Wellness Couch fans who couldn't get to a summit because of interstate or international travel, now you can join us.
No border closures for this one. Join us from the comfort of home on September 11 and 12 for a day and a night of inspiring, uplifting, empowering information, insights, fun, and of course a bit of frivolity.
This is a wellness summit like no other. Imagine cooking dinner live with Joe Whitten from your very own home.
Or joining in a group conversation with some of Australia's greatest thought leaders in health and wellness.
The theme this year is Revolution, and you're invited to join us.
Tickets are just $97. You'll receive lifetime access to the recordings and a stack of bonuses when you register.
Proudly brought to you by Positive Mentor. The rundown, the speakers, and all the details are at thewellnesssummit.com.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We ask, in what ways can we show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can we mine the wisdom from the experiences of our lives and expand into those challenges? If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs, so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. And if you feel like giving a little back to this free content, please become a patron of the show and receive extra member benefits for less than a coffee a month. Or you can leave a review on iTunes and Facebook, all of which helps the podcast keep going and reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul. Head on over to patreon.com/NTM podcast to find out more. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is When It Feels Like Groundhog Day, which is probably most poignant for those of you like us who are in stage 4 COVID lockdown. So we really think it's worth looking at whether you are in or out of lockdown. We all run cycles and patterns of when it just feels like the same old over and over. And some days you're just trying to find the will to live. So that's where we're going to take the conversation today. Before we do that, we would love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au, sign up to join our tribe, and once every so often we shoot you off an email with links to everything we have going on in the world so you don't miss a beat. So drop in your email address at nourishingthemother.com.au.
So yes, this topic is certainly pertinent for those who share our experience of being in 4 walls a lot of the time and not really getting to venture too far. And we have done a podcast on this topic years ago, but we thought it was high time to revisit it, because even without lockdown, you can certainly go through phases of your motherhood where you really have to psych yourself up to get your day started, and to really work on your mindset, particularly if you've got young children and there's, like my almost 4-year-old who tends to wake up pretty grisly, and it's, you've got to psych yourself into holding space for that the moment that you're up to.
Yeah.
So we are going to, it's a bit of ninja work sometimes, ninja work even more so when you're plagued with some of the outer world stresses that COVID can bring.
Oh, yeah. I even find now I'm like, oh, God, we're just here again.
Yes.
Like, it's literally like, even the kids are still, and we've got anything on tomorrow? And I'm like, it's stage 4 lockdown. No one's going anywhere. Nothing changes. You know, like,
Yeah.
I literally would say this to my teens the other night. I was looking at my son going, why are you even asking me? Like, you know, every day is the same. He was like, yeah, I know. But I just thought I'd ask just in case.
Just throw it out there, just on a whim.
But it did really make me realise how much I'm like, because every day's the same. You know, like, I thought, let's have a look at your mental chatter there, Julie.
Oh, this sounds like this podcast is just what you need.
No, I really struggled this lockdown. Last lockdown, we went in stage 4, which probably makes a bit more of a difference. But last time I loved it so hard. This time I've found it really hard. And what I've noticed is that those who found it easy last time are finding it hard this time. Those that found it hard last time are finding it easy this time. So I just wonder if we're also just getting that equilibrating opposite experience.
Yeah.
You know, across the board. So, no, this time I've majorly struggled just with apathy. Like, what's the point of even getting dressed? I could pick those toys up, but they're just going to be there again. You know, it's like, I'm kind of like, do the dishes, but what's the point? You know, like, I'm literally like, I can't be bothered as I'm walking around my house. And at the same time as I'm laughing at myself and having genuine conversations going, I know that's there, but I literally can't even be bothered. Like, what the hell is going on? Because this does not happen in my head normally. You know, like, it's like normally it's like energy, you know.
Okay, it's go, yeah.
Bazookas, yeah. And now I'm like, there's no point.
I really wish that the people who are listening on the podcast could see the visuals, because Julie's scowl when she makes that sound is just golden.
Because I just really feel it. I'm like, I saw that heaviness in my body. That just feels like I'm like kind of lumbering with this like iron weight in my body each day, which is very, very different to how my body normally feels. So I do think this is a really important conversation to have, because I also realize it's so much of a mental state. Like, I know that's a mental state. So even as I'm witnessing it and feeling it, I'm then using the tools that I have with the awareness that I have to get myself out of that, so that I don't stay bogged in, you know,
because that's one, because I mean, that heaviness in your body is one symptom of it, and the other one is, you know, throwing out your, like, taking the feelings and throwing them, you know, as you say, like mud onto somebody else, like making someone else responsible for how you're feeling, which is really easy to do when you're feeling stressed. But it's a feedback to go, oh, I just like was really irrational about something that's not a big deal. I'm clearly having a hard time right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. So I think where I'd love to begin the conversation here, if you're okay, Bridge, is really just talking about the creation of novelty in your day. Is when there's a significant lack of any, what can you do to inspire novelty and therefore spark those chemicals of intrigue and, you know, desire and fun and energy and, you know, all of those things? What is it that you can actually do to create novelty rather than waiting for novelty to find you, or in this situation to never happen?
Which is really big, right? Because often people will just change their external environment to change their internal environment, and it won't even often be a conscious process. You know, it'll be like, what do I want to do today? Oh, I want to have fun, so I'll go and seek where I know fun is. But this experience is asking us to go, okay, well, when my outer world is unable to be changed at all, like, this is it, what can I do to shift things up? What can I do to change things up? How can I create surprise and intrigue and fun here
Yeah.
Which is the invitation. And I think our kids beautifully do it, right? Like they'll either do it constructively or destructively, because they'll also see that we need it. They'll also push the edges in order for us to change it up.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought maybe it was worthwhile talking about maybe how we do that, Bridget.
Yeah, sure.
You and I together.
Yeah. So
for us, do you want to go? You go.
You go.
This is the thing when we're like, doing this by ISO. For us, it's become a really big focus on dinner.
Oh, yeah.
So food and what we're having for dinner has become more of a,
the centerpiece.
like a banquet experience, because everybody, it's the time of day where we all come together, because during the day, Nick's working from home full time and he does corporate. So there's still the expectation of a regular 8:30 to 5:30 kind of day, and he's doing that in the house, where I've got 4 kids at home, 3 of whom are homeschooling, and 1 of whom is a preschooler who wants you to play with her every 5 minutes. So it's a really full-on dynamic like that. So dinner is often the time when we know consciously no one has stuff to do. Like the high school kids have done with school. I make sure I'm not working during dinner time, and I'm trying to fit in my work around all of that. So it's not easy, but when we ritualize dinner, it becomes this really fun environment. And because we've got nowhere to be, we can take our time with cooking it. So as you know, my older 2 cook a meal each a week, so they've been poring over novelty, right? So what new recipes can they find? And every day they're making new things. So Jade today made these little these healthy banana poffages, and Heath made these chocolate waffles. And so we're actually experiencing novelty through the creation of shared meal times in our house, because it's a slower paced living, because it's not like dinner's got to be done by now and we've got to, we've got time to cook. So there's no limitations on what we can cook. So we've been trying everything that's not our regular go-tos. How you always get into a rut and you've got kind of a recycling 8 meals or something like that you do because you know them. So we're pretty much not cooking anything we'd normally cook, and every day it's something different. And so because of that, there's an excitement around what dinner is and, who's making it and where we found it. And it's this, I'm finding that really fun, because it's also gives you structure, because whatever happens at that point in the day, that's the end of the day. As opposed to these endless days where, who knows, you could be having breakfast and it's 10:30 in the morning and, normally you'd have been out the door at 7:30. So creating novelty experiences through slow food has been really, really inviting. And then we change where we have it. So we've got a whole lot of wood delivered, so we've really been using our open fire. So we spend lots of meals around the open fire or on the lounge room floor, or what are we going to do tonight? Maybe we'll choose a family movie and we'll have dinner while we watch the movie together. So this kind of end of the day ritual has created novelty that then sparks, that has a flow-on effect backwards. I've got to be ready by this time to do that, which means school has to be done by here, and, it goes backwards, which then makes you need to get the other stuff done in the day. So I found that super useful.
It's almost like backwards engineering to motivate yourself through the drudgery.
Yeah, exactly. And chasing the sun. I said to my daughter today, I was like, oh, dude, you've got to get some sun on your face. I do wonder how many people are going to end up vitamin D deficient and therefore have a number of consequences from that post this, particularly being winter. And I was looking at this morning, I was like, oh, you're starting to look vitamin D deficient. I said to her, please go and do your school. You need sun on your face. And so I went outside and did some work with sun on my face too. So just getting sun on your face, I think, makes a really big difference. What else have we been doing to create novelty? Trying to think now. Just changing up the toy space. So I really do make an effort, even though I said to you, I was like, oh, I can't be bothered, which is totally true, can't be bothered. But I make myself be bothered to clean up our lounge room space and every day have all of the toys packed away. As you know, Bridgie, we don't have really any toys in the house at all. So they're all in like categorized, you know, clip lock lid boxes that all get stored out in the garage. And so we have toy rotations, which works really well because it obviously keeps interest then for little kids. Otherwise they become, you know, like everything else in the house. Yeah. So by virtue of that, every morning then we're choosing which boxes we're playing with and bringing them in. And then we'll play with those things and then we pack them up and we take them back out. And I think that creates novelty for me and for her. And even though I hate the whole, I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to do it and clean up and whatever, I really feel better when my space is clean. So even though I can't be bothered, making myself have the energy to be bothered actually makes me feel better. So playing music really makes me feel better. So if I can play music, all of a sudden there'll be a random kid singing along and there'll be, just totally changes everybody's vibe. Lighting candles, same thing. And making sure that I'm dressed in the mornings, that I actually do get dressed and I spend time deciding what I want to wear for that day. So at the moment, that's how we're creating novelty that gives me enough energy to, you know, feel pretty good, you know, yes, lower energy than normally, but not get in a super funk, like just be like, oh God, it's another day. And I'm like, and get up and get moving, you know, like it's a bit of that mental fortitude again. That's like, yeah, I hear you, babe. You're tired. You're heavy. You don't want to move. Now move, you know?
Yeah. Like you're acknowledging the pain and you're acknowledging the monotony, but you're still doing something with it, doing something about it.
Yeah. What does it look like for you?
Yeah, so for us, it's definitely oriented around getting out. So my kids we need to be outdoors by sort of 11:30 at the latest. And we've been so fortunate in Melbourne that we've had so much beautiful sunshine. So we've really been making the most of that. We've been probably going a bit longer than the hour that you're supposed to be outside. But that's really for us to go on bike rides. I will go for a walk with Pearl. It will be when she has her sleep. Sometimes I might even see someone, so I'll get to have a little chat. So that feels really good so that I can at least stretch out beyond the house. And I know that if I've at least got out and moved my body and walked and connected with people, even if it's from behind a mask from afar, that I'm broadening my horizons beyond the home. So that's, I know that we have that every day, and then I know that if I'm beginning to feel overwhelmed by, you know, the things to do in the house, that I have that option to just get out. And so that's a non-negotiable. And of course, my 7-year-old will ensure that that happens every day because he likes to bike ride. And then it's also following their lead around what their fun looks like and how I can amp it up with them and be in their fun with them. So, you know, like for instance, Hugo's wanting to like put all these like Sylvie Pro kind of stickers all over her bike. And so, you know, he's like making all these labels and putting them all over her bike. And so I'm joining in on that and like finding ways to find the fun with them. And then that becomes kind of like intoxicating and I feed off that. And so that I look for those invitations to play with them, which has been really good. I haven't been as motivated for dinners as you. I've kind of gone the opposite. I think sometimes the days almost get away from me like more quickly being at home because I can just like dabble in other things or get swept up in other stuff and go, oh crap, like I haven't done something and it's 4 o'clock. So we haven't had the ritual around dinner so much as probably what we usually would. But because my husband's home now, our breakfasts have become much more diverse, and he has been really inspired to make pancakes more often than usual and like make breakfast burritos and, you know, like kind of potter in the kitchen. And that's been really lovely because we don't often get to do that. So I've enjoyed that, and that has brought novelty to me because it's not always then like I'm feeling like I'm doing all of the things, like that it's a shared experience and that there's more connection time in that, which has been really lovely. All the things you talked about, so totally like the music, the candles, just changing up the environment, noticing when like things are feeling like stuck in the house and how I can shift things up so that even just the space looks a bit different, so that I feel more spacious and free and excited in my home. That's been really, really lovely. What else has been good for bringing novelty? Just noticing, I think bringing more awareness. The thing about being in your home for such an extended amount of time is I've really been paying attention to what some of my patterns are with the way that I move in my house, so that I can begin to hack my patterns. Like, you know, just sometimes, particularly with little kids, when you're kind of starting, doing things so often, noticing where my frustration points are, like if I've half done something and then I'm, you know, tending to a child and I'm trying to get back to it, and then thinking, how could that be done better? So I'm kind of almost enjoying the process of noticing my patterns within the home and how I can change them up so I feel more spacious. Like, that's quite cool. You know,
got an example of that?
Well, even just because I like letting clutter build up and then noticing that I'll end up like I'll spend half an hour like kind of picking up bits of clutter and putting them away in between like being with a child, whereas now I'm like, okay, well, this is this child's, this is this child's, this is this child's, and bring them into step with me around making it fun. That it's like, you know, again, all the teamwork makes the dream work stuff, but doing it from a place of, let's not just do it like one time a day or once a week or whenever it gets too much and I'm irritated. Let's actually build that into our day, because it's also meant that like the monotony of our days has meant that I've been able to instill, particularly my 7-year-old, much more regular like chores, you know, right? So that there's that training going on and that stepping up going on that's then filtering out into other ways. But because we're working on the novelty and the fun, his cooperation is great, because it's not me just nagging, it's me doing fun and this, which feels good for me as well, if that makes sense. So yeah, one of them is just, you know, just the cluttery stuff, which, you know, totally, which, as you know, like you were talking about how you love to have those clean spaces and you want that in your living room. Absolutely, because it's the more stuff you have visually, it's like it kind of screams at you and it's disorienting.
And I don't feel good in this space.
Yeah.
Like, even when I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered, and I like flake on the couch, I'm still looking at the stuff going, oh, that shits me. Oh, I wish that so-and-so, blah, 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 which I could just avoid all of that dank mental state by just clearing it up.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And it's not that it falls on me, because as you know, I do exactly what you do. I'm like, my 2-year-old, or now 3, she's turned 3 the other day, knows she doesn't open a play box until she's packed up the box of stuff she's just been playing with. Like, and literally just turned 3 the other day, can pack up like a mofo. I don't understand, honestly, my kids won't help me in the house thing.
Yeah. Because your kids don't get an option not to help you in that.
They don't have an option, because this is family life, and I refuse to be everybody's servant. That is not what I am here to do.
Yeah. I'm
here to live an aligned, lit up life, just like you. Turns out we all get the same freedom.
That's so good. I know. Well, when I hear myself sometimes saying that to my like 7-year-old, it's not my job. It's not my job. So you can go like,
it's not my job.
Put that away.
I don't want to play, but no, exactly. And I don't want to do it, and then it corrodes our relationship anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, well, it's easier if I just do it, and you know, and then I'm resentful the entire time and stacking all of this frustration and tension in my body, and in comes my life is so burdened, I do all of the things, no one does anything else. Oh, that feels like an absolute cage. Like, just none of that is true, but you have to change what you're doing.
That's exactly right.
So it just, might be painful while there's training going on, and they're not always going to want to do it. That's okay.
I don't feel like doing it either.
Yeah. I'm like me with the sludginess, it can be like, yeah, no, you really don't want to do it. I really get it. I really do. And now you got to do it.
I know. It's like my son. Today, what did he do? Oh yeah, so he's good. He knows he has to clean up after himself. So anyway, he was looking at something, trying to pump up a bike tire inside, and dirt went all over the floor. So he's looking for the vacuum cleaner, and it was outside. My husband was using it, and so he's like, "Oh, Dad's using it." And so he's like, "Can you get me the big one?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, I'll get you the big one." Anyway, I get it set up. He's like, "I don't want to use it. It's too loud." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's too loud. Too bad. Do it." Like, I don't care. I don't care that it's too loud. You're not cleaning up the dirt. So deal with the fact that it's too loud by stretching your tolerance and get it done. Because I'm not going to do it for you. Like, I'm just not.
Well, and the thing is, if you did, right, and you went, oh, well, what, like, you don't escape pain, right? It just becomes an external exchange for an internal. Like, I'm unwilling to make that level of sacrifice, because I know that, as you know, Bridget, that the more honouring I feel and the more love flows through my body, so the better our experience is together.
Yeah. And I also see the value of challenge as well. Like, and I think about this in the case of us being in lockdown and our kids not getting external challenge as much outside in the world, because they're not in the world. How much are they also co-creating with us opportunities to experience more challenge because they need it to grow? So that's also where I would caution parents who are, worried about the impact of lockdown on their children, and so maybe they're treading extra gentle lest they hurt their children. I also make sure that you don't discount the value of healthy challenge for them right now, because they actually really need it to rise as well, and to feel like they're a contributing member of the family and to feel valued. Because the beautiful thing about all the things I ask my son to do is that I heap appreciation on him as well, and I try not to. Yeah, I don't expect. I mean, I expect it. Like, I expect you to do it, but my tone is always as a request, and my appreciation is always, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing that, even though it's something that he knows he has to do. I still make a point of heaping that upon him so that he feels good about it and he wants to do it again, and he sees how meaningful that contribution is to our family.
I think that's the missing point. I think maybe a lot of people make, particularly when well, I do it every day, so you should just do it. Yeah, you don't deserve accolade for it. And I think as a culture, we have particularly when it comes to the more feminine or, historically feminine domesticated duties and responsibilities, of which mother is one of those, we have this internal cringe around offering praise and validation for the success of those, Yeah. And I think that's it, is that every time they do it, there's still a flow of love there that's like, oh, love that you did that. Oh, thank you so much. That feels so good when we work together. It's so great.
And I feel like so much more of a sense of freedom that when that's taken care of, I can do what I need to do with much more ease. So, of course, I want to, thank that. And same goes with my husband. I mean, I think everybody just wants to be appreciated. But if we're feeling like it's burdensome and drudgery and heavy, then we're not going to leave a lot of room for allowing appreciation, because it's just what they should do. But no one feels good. We don't feel good if we should on ourselves, so they're not going to feel good about it either.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that's the missing link.
Yeah.
The other thing we had on here, as we made a couple of notes before we started, was to set the bigger picture when you're in Groundhog Day. What does that mean for you?
So for me, I think about, it's relationship as a bigger picture, and also what am I helping my children become, so that when I feel like overwhelmed or when I feel uninspired, that I can come back to I'm helping imprint a quality of relationship here, and I want to help you become the magic of who you are. And so, and I do that by slowing down and noticing them more, right? So I was saying this to a beautiful mum friend of mine who was like having a hell day. And I was saying, yeah, when I get to the point of feeling super irritated and triggered by everything, that's when I just slow right down and notice my children like as people again, right? Like, you know, when you're super irritated and anything just feels like an overstimulation to your nervous system, and it's like, no, I don't want to get any more water. I don't want to get you any more snacks, you know, like you get to that kind of point.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for me, it's like, okay, look at their soft features, notice their eyelashes, look at the way their eyes glisten when they're excited, look at their freckles on their nose, look at the way they move their bodies, so that I am coming back into the wonder of who they are and just how they move in our home, and rekindling, you know, a sense of awe at who they are and my responsibility and opportunity that I have to raise them. So that's what I come back to and remind myself, like, you know, like it can feel, particularly when it feels like Groundhog Day, it feels like there's like no escape and there's no change and it feels heavy. But yet, you know, like there's going to be a time when like the playgrounds that your kids are always requesting to go to will just, one day they'll just stop asking to go because they'll be so grown up that they won't be interested in it anymore. And so the very thing that feels so hard right now will be the very thing that you'll look back on and go, oh, remember that time? You know, and like that, I even feel emotional thinking about that, because the truth is, like, it is so fleeting. You know? And that's sometimes enough for me to go, okay, I can be here.
Just coming back to the preciousness.
Yeah. 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 So that's powerful. And like in this time too, like, I mean, our kids, particularly if you're experiencing lockdown, like our kids, this is going to be a really big history-making experience, that they will be able to pinpoint what that experience was like for them. And so I want that to have a flavour to it that they can look back on and taste with joy, or taste with a texture that feels like something that they want to tap into, and not something that they want to forget or that they struggle with. You know, and like, I mean, that might be a really big leap for some people. I totally get that it's a really challenging time right now. And, you know, I have the conversations with my 7-year-old, particularly, like, you know, about what this time is like for people, and the challenge that it's brought, and, you know, the different vast experiences some people are having to make it real for him, or as real as I want to make it for a 7-year-old. But at the same time, I still want to have it kind of tinged with a bit of magic in it, and not compromise what I value just because it feels hard. You know, that's what I mean when I say come back to the bigger picture. Yeah,
that's really beautiful to hear. It's really beautiful to hear. So thank you for sharing that.
What about you?
I guess I do look for the bigger picture outside of this time as well. Is there's part of me that still recognises that life, whilst it is happening now, will also continue to have a forward momentum to it outside of this phase. And it's a finite amount of time. It's a bubble. And at some point I'm coming out of the bubble. So what am I coming out to is kind of, I guess, what pulls me forward there is, what do I want to have in place, or to have said, I use that time really wisely, because time is such a precious resource. And even we have an extraordinary amount of it and we end up in this apathy of, oh God, and we start, you know, and me, I'm really talking to me, I should stop saying we start, and I start becoming ungrateful for this bubble of time that I have, because I'm generally outside of this time pretty time poor. I have 4 kids. I have 2 different schools with drop-offs and pickups, which I still choose to do because I find that time incredibly precious, but 2 school drop-offs and pickups, a preschooler that I'm home with 24/7 during the day, 12 extracurriculars, a husband that works long hours and then will take kids to, you know, and some of those curriculars have 3 things that they have to do in a week. Can you imagine trying to fit essentially 18 blocks of extracurriculars in a week, plus 2 different schools, and a kid that's at home, and my work? There's really no time.
Like freaking superhuman.
Well, I schedule the fuck out of my life, really and truly. And the truth is, and I was sitting with this the other day when I was thinking about it, is that I do come back to my hierarchy of values, and they continue to morph and shift. And so time is precious. So what do I want to do that lights me up the most, and what would it be like in a hierarchy that I make sure I've got space and time for this, and then if I've got time left over, it gets filled with these lower value things. And I do honestly continuously think about my life that way and check in with my own integrity and alignment around if I'm still honouring that. So for me, it's actually social that drops off. So I'll make sure that I meet all of my kids' needs in terms of emotional, physical, and educational, because learning is a really high value, right? So I'm meeting my family, learning, and career, and I don't even think about anything else in my life until I know I've got good, like, space, room, like it's done. Yeah. I make sure I've scheduled that stuff before I fill it with anything else. So the sad part of that will be for other people who have a really high social value. I don't really see friends, like, really. I'm a pretty lone ranger over here. I have the most rich and fantastic online conversations with women that I'm working with every day. And in the groups like that you and I have, Bridge of Soul Driven Motherhood, and my new baby being Honey Club, and I don't feel like I lack or I miss or I have a void on anything social. The form has just morphed, and it's into
beautiful.
My top values. So I just want you to know, when you look at, oh my God, you're superhuman, how do you fit all this in? My values likely look different to yours. Right? So I don't want us to look at what does it look like to, you know, do all the things. You might be like social for you, and one of my friends is one friend in sort of the school mums group, and I swear to God, social has to be probably likely her top value. You have never met a woman who was on the pulse of every single other human that she's connected to on a social level, who makes sure that everybody's needs are getting met, like socially within the group. There's birthday parties, she's organising them all. There's things needs done. She's the one that's orchestrating community. And I'm so immensely grateful to her. And I look at this genius and I think, wow, if I didn't have people like you, I'd just fade away from that group. But she's there and makes sure that you don't. And I just think we all have those people, right?
Amazing, yeah. She's like knitting it. She's kind of knitting everybody together.
Like in the community, if you really looked at your community, all parts of the universe would exist there, right? And I'm just immensely grateful for those differences. So she couldn't live my life and wouldn't choose to. But that doesn't mean that her life or my life is less crazy, chaotic, or has more or less in it. It's just what we choose to do with that time, you know? So that was a very convoluted answer too. I come back around to, so this is such a big bubble of time. I will never have this time again, ever. Like ever. That's not my life. It's not the life I choose, and it's not the life I've chosen. I will never have this bubble of time again. So what am I doing with it? And what do I want to look back when I've left this bubble and say, I did in COVID. I did that in COVID. What do I want to leave? So I always pull forward to that vision, and for me it's work and service and love in all of its forms. What does that look like to have said, I loved so well and so wide during this time, and I honored my own soul, and I created this work from my soul? And you know, like, what does that look like as a bigger vision by the time I've left this bubble? Because it's almost like I'm traveling through space and I'm in this wrinkle of time where everything, like nothing is as life is, and time is completely irrelevant. Like it doesn't even exist as we, like, this really is the quantum field, right? Like there's no relativity here. And so I kind of go, wow. So I'm like stretching out time here and it's going super slow. And then at some point it's going to rubber band and all of a sudden pick up pace again. And I know it's going to. So what the fuck am I doing with this exorbitant amount of time? It's like the biggest gift. Like, it's luxury. We all want to work our lives to end up with the lifestyle we have right now. This is a retirement lifestyle.
It's so true.
Right?
I know, and it's so true. And I always think that, like, I've been having conversations like this in terms of, like, what's the conservation here, right? Like, because it's the attachment to the old form that is causing such suffering right now. Like, it's the inability to adapt to what we have and what we're experiencing now that is the source of the pain.
Yeah, yeah. So I just love, I mean, I adore immensely everything you said about the bubble, and I just think you cannot be reflective and hear those things enough. And I think loving who you are in close proximity with is when it gets hard, is the time to love harder. So I definitely think we all need those beautiful reminders. But I also want you to think about this time as precious rather than something that's happening to you.
Yeah.
Because it also is. It will never be this again, ever. It, like, forget all of your conspiracy things. It will never be this again, ever. So what are you doing with it? So I really focus on that also pulling me forwards, because even when I can't be bothered, you know, doing the socials post or booking a consult or getting back to editing my book, which feels like no man's deadland bog in the, I don't even know, the whole artwork is fucked land. That's where I'm in with the book. Yeah. I'm in the middle of the artwork where it's like, that's it. It's fucked before it starts getting better. And I know that it will get better, and I don't want to do it. But I'm also looking at this bubble going,
this is your time.
This is my time, because I will never get this time again, like, ever. And I would love to leave COVID saying I wrote a book. That's what I did with my time. I poured my heart and my soul into a creation, and here it is as I leave COVID. I mean, that would feel amazing. So it's that vision that pulls me forward, even when I really don't want to. You know, it's kind of like that bratty 3-year-old. I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah. And here we go.
Yeah. And we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And come on, back up.
Yeah. So I would love for you to think what your bigger vision is too, because this is still, though it feels like time is stretching out, it is still fleeting. It is still a bubble. It will not last. You will come out of it. What is the life that you want to come out of it into? And what do you want to look back on and say, that's what I did with that. I didn't just watch Netflix and live in dirty pajamas and eat ice cream all day. You know?
I love that.
So the big vision.
I mean, I've certainly found, like, and it's not, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck I'm doing, but it is like a creative, it has the potential to be like a creative vortex, right? Because you are stripped back.
Here's the thing, if you're self-disciplined enough, right? So here's the thing with creativity, is we love the idea of creativity, but just like feminine light, if it does not have structure, it fizzles into nothing. You can be your 3-year-old, lost in imagination, super creative. I don't feel like it. I feel like it. I don't feel like it. Cool. But unless you've got the higher self parent who goes, and here we go this way, it will not eventuate.
Yeah.
So claim your creativity, but you're going to have to take some structure with you. That's my yoga technique. I'm like, you have to, or else you won't create.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. Because I mean, I'm working in a bit of a group to pull out of me a book that wants to come out that's still, I don't really kind of know what it is, but I just want to write. Like, I'm loving writing. But even that, because, you know, I've got a baby that wakes up at my writing time. And so then I'm like, oh, like, but that's just pushing me to find a different pocket. And when I don't feel like it, do it anyway. And when I feel like it's shit, at least write something, you know, because it's busting through your own bullshit most of the time, right? Yeah. And I'm really good at showing up for other people. I'm not so good at showing up for myself. And so it's building that as a muscle, right? Like, so I'm delivering a course at the moment, and there's lots of structure, and there's, you know, no part of me that's not showing up there because I've promised it to other people.
Because you've given structure. Well, and you've given it structure.
And I've given it structure. Yeah. And so, but for me, I can flake out on myself sometimes because I haven't held my structure strong enough, right? So, you know, and we can fill our time with anything that we want to fill it with. It's just about, this is a time to call ourselves to, you know, gently parent ourselves through our resistance as well, to make it meaningful, to make it what you want to make it.
God, 100%. Now, the last 2 points we had was to continue to ask yourself the question, what do I need right now? And as you and I have said in so many podcasts, there can't be a better question.
Yes.
What do I need right now? And if what you need is to lay in the sun, then you lay in the sun. And if I think I'm hungry, no, I'm actually really thirsty, then drink some water. You know, like, it's just continuing to ask yourself that question. I just think gets you through, builds energy and nourishment.
Yeah. Me too.
And the last one was, what am I making it mean?
Yeah, so we threw this one in there because I thought sometimes we can hit this edge of Groundhog Day, and it can be an unconscious process, but that it, for example, it can be, you know, you're getting to this point where you're perceiving your parenting as so unfulfilling that it'll push you into your creativity, or it'll push you into change. Because if you perceive your parenting or your motherhood as solely fulfilling and you don't need anything else, then are you going to do the thing that that your higher self is yearning for you to do? Maybe not. So Groundhog Day can also be a beautiful feedback mechanism for you to consider why you're making it mean what it's meaning for you, and could these perceptions that you're experiencing be part of you trying to motivate yourself to change something that's not working for you, or to, you know, evoke something within you that's wanting to come out and be unleashed on the world. So sometimes we'll do those kinds of, you know, interesting little mind games with ourselves in order to initiate change.
Just love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So we might wrap up, Bridgie. Is there anything that feels left unsaid for you?
No, I just, you know, like, love your Groundhog Day, but then also don't be consumed by it, because you get to choose. As you've heard on this podcast, you get to change it up. And if we can do it from stage 4 lockdown, you can do it wherever you are.
I think maybe that should be your billboard, Bridgie. You get to choose.
You get to choose.
You know, you get to create it. You still have choice.
Yeah, I like that. You still have choice.
Yeah, in everything and in every moment, right? You still have choice. So anyway, how do we connect with you?
SuburbanSandcastles.com. And you, Jules?
Is thepleasurenutritionist.com.
Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
And if you want to support Nourishing the Mother and all the late nights, the early mornings, the blood, sweat and tears we pour into our art, then please go to patreon.com/NTM podcast and become our patron. As a patron, you're helping all of the cost of operating this podcast, the hosting, the editing, the transcription, helping all of that be completely covered, and joining a community who are all about honouring our journeys and continuing to open. The more support we have, the longer we can last. So become a patron. We'd love to have you. Go to patreon.com/NTM podcast. We literally couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for listening, and please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.